At last, what happened?
Yeah. I don't know, but I was here. I was holding the fort. um, it looks like so your screen seems to be okay. There was a little bit of a matrix kind of thing just earlier, but I think it should be fine. Can you hear me fine?
Okay. Yeah, it seems okay now. You were completely frozen. I didn't know what I could do.
I don't know. I was I was here. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But these are the joys of Instagram and going live.
Right.
So we've got Mary's here with us. Hi, Mary's.
Hello, Mary's. Nice to see you.
So yes, so shall we start? So this is the live Q&A for Wired for Success workshop. And it's just here myself and Steve, we're going to try to answer a bit more questions in terms of what young people can have and what Wired for Success is, and things like that in terms of the workshop that's going to be happening in 2 weeks' time. So first of all, we'll start with a little bit of an introduction. So I don't know, Steve, if you want to go first, let me know.
Yeah, sure. I'm good with that. Introduction. Wow. Interesting. I was asked to do a bio for somebody earlier today, which is part of an ebook that I've just written. And I didn't know what to put in it because I was putting too much in. And the more I read it, I thought, this is a book in itself. This is ridiculous. So I had to try and narrow it down. Why would I have to do that? And I kind of started thinking back to where my journey began. And it began when I left school to go work for British Aerospace, which I really didn't like much. It was good pay, but not much of a job that I enjoyed. But my goal was always to become a youth and community worker. And I managed that by the time I was early 20s. Can't remember exactly. And I went to work near Croydon in South London, working for the London Borough Youth Service. So I had quite an interesting experience there working with young people from all different kinds of economic backgrounds. There was some quite well-off young people. There were some young people who had nothing. So it was quite an interesting place to work. And I was involved with the law to a point as well, where young people have got themselves into trouble with the law and so on. So it's quite a challenging place to work. And then I moved on from there to work with the British forces in Germany, which was interesting again because it was completely different to working in London, of course. But that had challenges of young people moving every 2 years.
Yeah.
So there's more continuity of friendship and all that sort of stuff. It's quite challenging for the young people and challenging for me as well to look for new ways to help them stay connected. Because that was quite early days of the internet. So the internet was there, but it was not great. And it was that dial-up thing. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, I remember that time.
So it was quite challenging. But during this time, I became a psychologist as well because a youth and community degree wasn't enough for me. I needed to go further and deeper, so that's why I studied psychology. So it's kind of psychology and youth and community degree coming together. And my favourite thing to do was work with young people in groups. Obviously, I did do one-on-one. But working in groups, you could get so much further, so much faster because you've got the input from other young people, the professional input from people like me and colleagues and so on and so forth. So that's all really quite exciting. So I've written a few books, a couple of novels, but they were kind of therapy when I had an accident and became sick. I just finished, as I just mentioned, an ebook for a big business company. They sell training materials to businesses all over the world. So that's quite a buzz.
That's nice.
So, a lot going on, a lot been going on.
Yes.
So that's a little bit I've not mentioned the family, 6 children, and so on and so on. But it's all there. It's all part of the picture.
That's amazing. And you've got 6 children. What are the age range?
The eldest is 26, and the youngest is 15, and one grandson who is 14 months in 2 days.
Wow, amazing. That's amazing. I've got 3, so I'm not quite there yet. I don't know if I'm there yet. I'll go there, but yeah, so far 3 is fine for me. But yeah, that's amazing. Wow. I'm really mind blown with everything that you've done and your work, if I can say, history and the way you've taken everything on in terms of like the way you help young people, but also the way you help adults in other cases. And I love the work you do with in terms of your mindfulness work in general. So I'm really glad you're here and we are together doing this workshops for young people. So I'm gonna go next then. I don't know if I should have gone first, I think. So, well, so basically, yes, same here. Where should I start? I start with family. So I'm married, got three boys, 3 boys who are part of the catalyst into why I wanted to come back into working with young people also, and doing the work that I'm doing right now, as in coaching and mentoring and supporting young people doing the best that they can do in their lives. So I've done quite a lot in my life. I've gone from different jobs, I would say, or different industries. And all of these industries are kind of giving me a lot of experience. I would say not only life experience, but experience in terms of business. And into the midst of all those different roles I've had in my life, I was a youth worker for 10 years. And I've worked in 3 different, if I can say, kind of projects. So I've worked on a based project, I think like you, where there was actual young people living in the project where I was working, and we supported them in terms of their independent skills. But I've also worked with young people who were living semi-independently, and who were looking to really become independent in their community, and supporting them into accessing services, but also understanding, what they needed to do in terms of like the basic skills of, living. Yeah. So I did that for 10 years, and then I left and I went into working with Transport for London. And now I'm back with Authentic Mindset, which I've been back with Authentic Mindset since last year. So in the midst of this, I certified as a coach and NLP practitioner, and I'm just keep on going onto focusing on my mission to support young people living their best lives. And this is where we come to Wired for Success and why Wired for Success is here. So I think I've said it already in a few publications, but Steve and myself, we are really passionate about young people and giving them skills and techniques that they can use to ease their life, everyday life, to make sure that when they get to challenges, they are able to keep going, and they are able to use any of the skills that we're going to give them in the Wired for Success workshop in order to have a stepping stone into their goals and their objectives. So let's go into questions. So there's a few questions that we need to go through in terms of giving you more information about the workshop happening. So this one, the first one is, why are we doing this workshop? So I don't know, do you want to give, I think I've kind of answered it myself, but do you want to give a bit of background, Steve?
Yeah, sure. Why are we doing this workshop? I think it's a great question.
It is.
One of the things, I'm going to use a personal story, just a very short personal story. I remember one of my grandfathers quite clearly, in that his attitudes were far, far removed from the way I seemed to be growing. And there was no conflict involved really, but I could feel this difference and I often didn't know what to make of it. And one day I was really curious about something. And I'm not going to say what it was, but I was really curious. And I was trying to work out what all this meant. And my curiosity was great. It was firing really well, and I was enjoying being curious about this challenge. And my grandfather said, no, it doesn't go like that. It goes like this. This is the answer, period, full stop, end of story. And my curiosity was kind of shot out of the sky. And it was painful because I wanted to explore, I wanted to understand. But his attitude said, no, this is the answer. There's nothing else to understand. But I think one of the challenges that young people face is that when they're small children, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, what is one of the big things that all of them have? They have curiosity. They want to know what will happen if I pull the top off this tube in my hand and squeeze it to work out. We know that. They don't know that. My grandson opens the top of hand cream and it goes everywhere, but it's curiosity. He wants to learn, he wants to know. But as they get older, the curiosity kind of stops because they're told often this is the way things are, by school, by teachers, etc., etc. And I'm not saying any of these people are wrong to do that. They're teaching what they know.
Yeah.
But in a workshop like Wired for Success, we give young people the opportunity to be curious. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay not to know the answers to the feelings they have. It's okay to wonder why somebody does things like this when they're told to do them like that. So it gives them the opportunity to explore and to be ultimately curious. And the more curious they can be, the more they can learn. So that's one of my questions.
I love this. And so I love this because basically yesterday I went into a kind of like, when you get a thought coming into your mind and you're like, and I got this thought and I was thinking about playing, simple play. As we grow, we tend to stop playing because play is different, because life means that you've got to be serious and there's serious things happening and this and that. And I remember looking at it in terms of like someone who's coming from like a traumatized environment or a space, and how they completely shut down the play because they are not allowed to have the play anymore, kind of thing. And it's like rediscovering how to incorporate that play back into your life. Sometimes it happens really, really swiftly and just naturally, but sometimes you've got to like have this kind of push for it and actually go and look for that to come into your life. And I wrote a post on it, but I will send it later. I will talk about that later. But basically, I was talking to back to myself and when I was younger, and when I realized that it was like maybe sometimes things were happening and they were not dealt with. So it was like one layer of trauma, one layer of trauma until the complete shutdown. And then from that place where you kind of shut down, it's like there's nothing is like nothing is there. Nothing joyful is there. Nothing playful is there. Everything is kind of like, if I could say it like this, like dark or gray. And then I did, so basically an action happened and I started to sing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I starting to sing again. But I hadn't realized in all this time that I had stopped singing. So it never occurred to me before the time that I started singing again that I had stopped. And that's when you realize that when you are not free to be, things completely shut down. And singing, but you don't want to hear me sing. I can't sing. I can't sing. However, it was something that was bringing me joy and happiness. And that's something I stopped doing. And it didn't really. So anyway, just deviating from the subject, but it's exactly what you're saying about.
You've opened what, as the saying goes, you've opened a can of worms. Because one of the things I do is cognitive behavior therapy, and that is about layers.
Yeah.
And it flashed up, I don't know how many examples whilst you were talking of clients from the recent past where we had to take off layers and layers and layers and layers to get back to a trauma, in one case at 4 years of age, and somebody who's nearly 50 years of age today.
Yeah.
You know, so you can imagine. So this is happening to young people already. They're collecting these layers of their experience.
It is. And especially when you think of the last couple of years that we've had, can you imagine being in isolation with all of this in your head? Yeah. And that's where I think that Wired for Success is amazing, because in Wired for Success we talk about your inner child. And the inner child likes to play. So how do you invite your inner child to play? That would be one thing I would put out there, if I can say it like that. But yes, amazing. Steve, you know, we're on the same page. So another question was, what makes us qualified in terms of like, doing this, which I can understand, like in terms of a parents, when you're like, oh, you want to do this workshop for young people, so what's the deal? Like, what's happening there? And I think in my answer, I mean, what I can answer is that whether it is Steve or myself, we are coming from professional backgrounds. That's one. We have done this work before, so we've been working with young people for a while. It's not the beginning, and also in terms of safeguarding, we understand what is around safeguarding, and we understand that if there was anything, let's say, in this workshop that was coming up or that was flagged up, we will be able to act on it really quickly. So that's one thing I can say about that. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I'm not really going to add much to that, Patience. I agree entirely with what you just said. I think one of the important things, without digging in too deeply, is if you look at the internet today and you want a service, any service, it doesn't really matter what it is, you can find it. But the problem is that when you find the service, you don't know whether it's being delivered by somebody who is regulated, somebody who is qualified, somebody who really does have experience. So it's very challenging to know that you're going down the right road.
That's true.
So I think in both of our cases, we both have UK-based qualifications. We both have UK-based experience, and they're very easy to ratify and follow up if anybody felt the need.
Yes.
But the other thing to mention that we didn't mention yet really is confidentiality as well.
Yes.
You know, sometimes things are said in workshops by participants that are highly confidential, And people need to know that we respect that confidentiality completely. You know, there is no way we will break confidentiality. Having said that, I would break it if I thought somebody was going to hurt themselves or hurt somebody else. There are a few grey areas, but
yes,
I think it's important.
There are, but it's true. I think it's important for the young people to know that whatever is said in the workshop will not be relayed to anyone outside of the workshop. So that's one thing already. Okay, so Steve, we had another question. So what is the motivation? I think we talked. I think we've been talking about that already. Like, what's the motivation for Wired for Success? But what would you say your motivation is in terms of this the workshop for the young people?
This reminds me of one of my mentors who I first met when I was 12 years old. He's still around, and he said to me when I was round about 12 that young people are the leaders of tomorrow. And that is so true that quite often young people are forgotten. Young people are seen as a nuisance. Young people are seen as a challenge. Young people are seen as a group who should be quiet and not worry people, and so on and so on. You know, we can put a lot of attitudes and assumptions in there. So young people are the leaders of tomorrow. That's partly my motivation. I think it's so important that young people have what they need for their future, because their future is everybody's future.
Yeah, so. I agree. I completely agree. I don't think I can add anything to this. It's exactly that. It's exactly that. And the more we have, if I can say, healthy, functioning young people, I would say, if we have young people who have a healthy well-being, we can only hope for the best, I think. So here we go. So next question, who is the workshop for? Well, the workshop is for young people, and here I will really say young people, age 15 or plus. So 15 plus, and I will say we can put a little bit of like a limit to 25, 15 to 25, so 10 years, so like a gap like that. And the gap will be only so that obviously young people feel at ease. They are within their peers, not with adults and feeling like they can't express themselves freely. But also this workshop, I would say, is for everyone who might need that little boost, might need that little help, you know. So you have young people who are really independent and really outspoken, who know how to talk about their needs and their wants, and they're really confident. But you have young people who maybe need that extra help, that extra support, and this is what we are bringing with Wired for Success. So we're bringing techniques and simple techniques that can be done daily, nothing too complicated, so that the young person start to be more confident in themselves, and also they are able to be assertive and really say what it is that they need and want, and not say it in a passive or aggressive way, but saying it really confidently and knowing that this is what it is. I can advocate for myself and not feel anyhow that, you know, about what I'm feeling and my opinions. So that's what I would say with the workshop for. What do you think, Steve?
I think those things that you just said, and there's another thing as well that you also said a couple of days ago, and this is about input. So we will input various things, information, questions, and so on, to get young people thinking.
Yes.
But it's got to be a two-way process.
Yes.
They need to input as well, because it's about them, it's about their learning, it's about their future. So it's got to be two-way. It's not going to work if people come along and they sit passively, and they don't interact and they don't give something to the process, because by giving they're going to learn. So it's got to be two-way.
I love that. No, absolutely. And you're right. I did mention it, was it yesterday or the day before? And the reason why I mentioned it is that often people go to coaches, to coach, to mentors, and they think that everything's going to be fixed miraculously. This is not what we're doing. If that's what you think, we are not for you. So it's important for young people to have this kind of like ownership of what it is they want to achieve themselves, and not the other way around, where it's us, kind of downloading on them. So I completely agree. Okay, last question. What outcomes will there be for young people? I'm going to let you take this, Steve.
That's a cool question. That's really good. Outcomes depend on what we've just been talking about, partially. What you put in. If you don't put anything in, you're not going to get very much out. You'll get something out, but it won't be as much as if you participated properly and fully. So that's important. It will enable people to look at, young people to look at the way things are. The way things are in their life today. And it'll enable them to see, as you mentioned earlier, little tweaks that they can apply to get more out of the things that are happening in their worlds. It will enable them to develop a sense of assertiveness. It will enable them to say, well, actually, I don't feel comfortable with this. It would be better if we could talk about it, or it would be better if we could do it like this. So that it will give them ideas, it will give them thoughts. Having said that, it won't give them ideas that will make them want to run away and rebel. It won't give them ideas that are going to scare their parents. That's not the point, far from it. But it will help them develop this assertiveness to enable questioning.
Yeah.
Because by questioning, finding the answers, we're going to learn, we're going to move forward. So that's important. You talked about inner child. There's so much to be learned from the study of inner childhood. I sent you a quote a few days ago by Hugh MacLeod, I think it is, isn't it?
Yes.
About your crayon. We'll have to use that one in the workshop.
Yes, definitely.
Which is a great quote. That learning isn't just about books and school learning and what we did today, mathematics or geography or history. It's much more than that, and it's also that learning is fun. And I remember my school experience. Not all learning was fun. It didn't feel like that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I've got the quote right here. So I'm going to read it for everyone to hear it. So it can prompt a little bit of thinking. Everyone is born creative. Everyone is given a box of crayons in kindergarten. Then when you hit puberty, they take the crayons away and replace them with dry, uninspiring books on algebra, history, etc. Being suddenly 8 years later with the creative bug is just a wee voice telling you, I'd like my crayons back, please. Hugh MacLeod. You know what? We will go a little bit deeper than that in the workshop, and we will, if I can say, kind of analyze this quote a little bit more, because there's so much coming from it. And if I can just add something that has nothing to do with the workshop, is that you will find that now there is an industry called creative industry. How fun is that? You know?
Yeah.
So when I
That's
was
cool.
growing up, there was no creative. There was nothing that was actually called creative. Yes, you have work that was creative, but it wasn't called that. I think it's been branded that now so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could get into all kinds of debates about that. I remember one of my university lecturers in my youth and community degree saying that in the beginning of the 2000s, we will be moving into different industry, and a lot of it will be centered around personal development, personal learning, leisure-related industries. And what's happened, go and have a look on the internet, personal development, personal learning, it's all there. You know, it's
It is.
absolutely awesome.
Your teacher was a visionary. A visionary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that young people will find in White for Success. It will be about personal development. It will be about their personal development, but it'll also give them a chance to see other young people, meet other young people with perhaps different ideas, with different experiences, with different upbringings. Add that to the pot and begin to understand it, and it helps develop what some people would call a more rounded individual.
Yeah.
You know, it's not one of my favorite phrases, but it has a point. You know, there's a point to it.
It has. So that was all the questions for the live. I think we've kind of talked about it a little bit more. And I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Steve, before we wrap up.
I don't think so at this point. If you get me talking, I'll talk all day.
I think I could go all day as well.
So I can't do that.
I agree. So this is just a little reminder of the event details. First of all, the link to book the place for your young people, your teenagers, is in the bio. So you can find that link there. If there is anything and you feel like you want to ask more questions, or you have something that is like on your mind, simply DM. You can DM me, you can DM Steve. We'll answer your questions. And the workshop will be in 2 weeks' time. So it will happen on the 26th of October, which is a Tuesday. So the workshop is online, which means that you could access it from anywhere in the world. However, the timing is 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. GMT. Yeah, so London time. If again, I'm going to repeat this again. If you have any questions, just get in touch with us. We'll be happy to talk to you about it. But also, what's going to happen? One thing that we forgot to mention is that young people will be able to take away some of the exercise in, if I can say portfolio. It's not really a portfolio, but they will be able to have their own questioning and things. So they will be able to redo this and by themselves in their own time. Also, the event will be recorded. So being it recorded, it means that it will be much better if the young person is there in person at the event. But in case they couldn't come to the event at that time, but you still want them to go through the work that we're going to propose, it's also fine, because they will get all the material, all the recordings and everything for them at that time. So I think that's all, really. We've said it all. And there's much more to come, but you have to come to the workshop for that. Yeah. So I'm going to leave you now, and I mean, we're going to leave you. Steve, you okay? Yeah?
Yes, everything's good. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to leave you. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, DM, link in the bio. If you need anything, just put a comment. And also another thing, last thing, share it to as many people as you can share it to. All right, thank you. You take care. Bye.